Thank you very much, and thank you all for having me. There's one disadvantage for being the last speaker before lunch, and it's being the last speaker before lunch. So I am in the way of your lunch, and so I will be as brief as I possibly can. So I'll tell you just a little bit about myself and start there. I was born here in San Jose, went to school here, off to college, San Diego State, studied political science with a minor in philosophy. Always had an interest in working in public service, came back and worked for a council member, and throughout that process I worked for a number of different elected officials. And what I learned a lot about working for elected officials is that you hear a lot of promises. And oftentimes those promises aren't kept. So you folks, I'm sure in your time, whether it's sitting here or in other events or elections over the many decades that I've been watching as well, is promises after promises after promises. So what I think is the most important thing to look at when you're voting is someone's record, because that really shows who they are and what they've done. I don't want to get into my long record in that 8 years on the council or 2 years on the school board. What I want to talk about is the reason why I do what I do. And when folks introduce me as a politician, I actually think that's a bad word, because politicians are the ones who promise and never deliver. For me, I'm a public servant or elected official, and my job is to represent you and serve you and no one else. No special interests, no lobbyists, nobody. So for me, serving the senior community, I mean, there is no better community to serve, because at some point, we're all going to be seniors. So it's been a very easy go for me of supporting the work on the senior commission that we've done, the work that we've done in San Jose, making a more safe and secure area or city for you. But the reason I do what I do is a little bit of a story about my mom. She opened a dance studio. She was a teacher, and her dream was always to own a dance studio and teach dance. She did it as a little girl. She opened a dance studio in Willow Glen. Shortly thereafter, there was a neighbor who happened to know somebody very powerful, a city council member, who supported this particular neighbor and shut down my mom's studio. So the planning department recommended denying her conditional use permit. I know that's technical, but what that did to her and her dance studios means they had to close down. Well, on a teacher's salary, you don't make a lot of money, and that investment came from a mortgage on their home. So in 3 short years of her starting it, being successful, she was told by the city of San Jose they need to close. There was a big rally. A lot of the kids were out there. These are the days of Jane Fonda, so jazzercise and leg warmers and everything. All these kids were out there, and all these parents and all these students and even seniors that were taking TAP, etc., were out there supporting my mom. And I had been somewhat of a little bit of a selfish teenager. Paid attention to my own life, didn't pay attention to what my parents were doing. And they had said, "Don, we need your help. Don, can you show up and support us?" So I did. Walked out there and saw at that big protest with kids with signs, "Save our school," and parents and teachers and students, everybody fighting hard for my mom. I realized at that point, hit me like a ton of bricks. That was my defining moment. When I grow up, I want to do a job that makes sure that somebody I know and somebody I love doesn't get stepped on like that. So for me, serving as a city council member, as you can imagine, full circle of that moment, which defined my public service life, led me to getting sworn in on the city council. I had my mom right there next to me getting sworn in, and I could see in her eyes how proud she was of me. But the opposite is really true, as I was so very proud of her for fighting. And I felt so very guilty that at the time when I was a teenager, I couldn't do a darn thing to help her. So now when I sit on that dais, whether it's the school board or city council, or hopefully as your county supervisor, what I'm doing is ensuring that the public is served, and that's you, and that government doesn't step on you. So I'd love to have your vote come November 6th, and thank you for your time.
Okay, Gary, you ready with the microphone?